So I was having a good talk with one of my friends last night, and he was talking to me about going online and buying some looted stuff and how about that was going to be such a good idea. And I had to explain to him that buying looted stuff is actually a crime in this country. He didn't think that I was actually telling the truth. And so for him, I've done this video, and for all you that are now getting on eBay to go buy all that looted stuff, not a good idea to do it. Okay, so a lot of people don't understand that theft isn't so much of actually taking the property, but having possession of property. So in the United States, receipt of stolen property is a federal crime under 18 U.S.C. Section 2315, defined as knowingly receiving, concealing, or disposing of stolen property with a value of at least $5,000. Now, this is federal law. Remember, in our country, we have two main governing bodies. You have your state, which usually handles criminal matters, and you have the federal law. So under the federal law here, we have $5,000. If you have something over $5,000 you're in possession of, then you can be found guilty. Now, you have to knowingly. You have to know that this is stolen property and that you are in possession of it. That is one of the key points. And also here, if it's federal law, it needs to cross interstate lines. Okay, it needs to go from one state to the other state, and you need to do it knowingly and willfully. Okay, so those are high burdens to meet. I understand that. So if property is stolen, and it makes it a little bit more easy for people to justify, because they're like, well, how are they going to know that? How did I know? How did I know it was stolen? Well, we're kind of in a time period that you might know, and I'll get to a little bit of that a little bit later. I want to go through Texas law because I'm a Texas attorney. A person commits an offense if he unlawfully appropriates property with the intent to deprive the owner of property. Okay, and then we have three different situations here, and number one is it is without the owner's effective consent. This happens often, especially when I do probate law and people take property from their parents before they actually inherit it, and then it turns out to be somebody else's property because a new will shows up or something. The property is stolen, and the actor appropriates the property knowing it was stolen by another. That's our key one right here. So you knew somebody else would take this. So there's all this looting going on, and you're on eBay, and you find something really cheap that's brand new, and you go and buy it. You very much could be found, found guilty of theft of a property when you didn't actually physically take it yourself, and you gave someone money for it. That's the craziest part. You're like, well, I don't believe you. Well, let me take you through a case, and I think this will help you understand kind of the concept. But this is Subhash Kapoor case. Apparently, there's like a famous also filmmaker that has the same name, and this is not the famous filmmaker. This is a man who dealt in artifacts. And so Subhash Kapoor was arrested in Germany in 2011 for a global smuggling ring. And so basically what he would do is he's from India. He'd go to India and he would purchase art, statues and things, and he would come to his store here and he would sell it. So he actually gave money, purchased it, and in 2011 he was arrested for engaging in having possession of stolen property, which he refused to turn over. Now here's the second case. A couple years later, his sister gets arrested. And his sister gets arrested because she took control of the business, and then she hid the stolen. So she had some statues and she hid them from the police. Now I want you to think that through. So how many levels deep do we have to go here? One, you have a guy who purchased property, okay? He went out and gave money for it. And then you have another person coming in who takes over a business and just hides the statue, okay? Just takes it and puts it somewhere else. She never purchased it. She's never engaged in any kind of transaction with anybody, but both were arrested under, and here's her complaint right here. And both of them had to face the fact that they're being criminally charged for something. Now, this is where things start getting scary, okay? So technology's gotten to a point that we can now track items. And cell phones and iPhones and are very valuable items. And they can track these items, where they're at. And if you see right here, this person who looted a phone, a store. Now, I don't believe the guy who, if you were to look up this image, the guy who posted this on Twitter was the guy who stole it. He might have been. But anyway, it's telling him, hey, return that item. So let's say you went out and bought this item from this gentleman, and you had this, and this popped up on your phone, and you refused to return that. Well, this item right here in the state of Texas would be considered worth over $1,000. So this would be a felony to be in possession of this item. And so that's up to a year in jail. So I imagine they would give you time to return this to the owner. I imagine a police officer would show up and say, hey, return this item. But if you couldn't produce the item, maybe you sold it off to somebody else, they might arrest you for that, because you might sell it off to somebody else who really is just taking it for the gold in it, and they take it apart, and it's now we don't have any evidence of where it's at. And so all they have is evidence that it was in your home and that you purchased it online from somebody. So this could become a really bad scenario for you. Anyway, I wanted to get that out there because I realized that sometimes we don't understand the law very well. We think that a thief is someone who takes something physically from someone. We don't think of theft as possession, and that's really what theft is having possession of stolen property. Now, of course, it's also, you can take it and then sell it off and still be charged with theft. You don't have to be in possession at the time. But I want you to think that through. Next time, do not go online and buy looted property. It's not worth it. It's not worth getting in trouble over.